Guy is a pretty easy movie to review. It's good. Not fantastic, but not forgettable either. It's just a solid, decent movie. Honestly, I was even wondering if I should review this film, seeing how I don't have a ton to say about it, and everything I'm gonna say is probably the same as everyone else. But then the more I thought about it, there is one aspect I think is very interesting to dive into, that I don't hear a ton of people discussing. But we'll get to that in a minute. Guy is an NPC in a video game, only he's not aware of it. He just goes about his everyday life expecting to be killed or robbed or beaten up. You know, stuff that we all sadly do to NPCs when we play video games. One day though, he discovers some glasses that lets him see the video game world for what it is, and he suddenly becomes self-aware. Two of the developers, named Millie and Keys, discover this so-called glitch and try to figure out what's wrong. As Guy becomes more self-aware, he starts to take more chances and questions things. He even starts to form a romantic connection with Millie. But the big bad guy in charge, named Antoine, not only wants to get rid of this character, but wants to erase all information about it. But it looks like his popularity is growing and more people are trying to figure out how this NPC suddenly seems alive. It's a fun idea that definitely takes advantage of its premise, and most of the laughs are pretty good. Ryan Reynolds is 100% believable in this role, kinda like a Truman from The Truman Show type, and he also has a lot of good help from his supporting cast. There's definitely some things that don't work, like if you didn't know Disney bought Fox by this point, trust me, when you watch this film, you'll be more than aware, and it's not like they cleverly do a little wink like, yeah, we know we're making kind of a sellout joke. No, you can practically see the advertisements every single time Star Wars or Marvel is mentioned. It's cringy, but not in a fun way. I also at first really liked the Antoine character, but he overstays his welcome really fast. The performance in the first half is pretty funny, but the more and more they try to make him like a legit villain, the more boring and frustratingly one-dimensional he becomes. Which is fine if they still have some good jokes with him, but they just kind of abandon the humor, and yeah, he's a pretty weak foil. I also had one other pet peeve, that they're building up this bad guy he's gonna fight at the end, and we're all thinking the same thing, it's gonna be Hugh Jackman, and it's not. He does have a little cameo as a voice, but for all that build-up, it should have been Hugh Jackman. But okay, what's the one element I really want to talk about with this movie that I don't see that many people touching upon? Oddly enough, the romance. The romance in this movie is kinda different and honestly a little interesting. I don't think it's great or anything, but it does have the seeds of something really unique. Without going too much into spoilers, the romance between Guy and Millie is almost kind of a romance between three people. I really like that Guy isn't just a character that randomly woke up. There is a reason why he is the way he is. And this leads to, not really a love triangle, but it is still a relationship among three people. Kinda. Two of the characters are kind of two sides to one personality. You could argue it's similar to what they did with 9, where all the different personalities, when you combine them, kinda make one human being. And I'm really on the fence about it because it's a really good idea, but it's so good I wanted it to be in its own movie. This is an idea that someone like Spike Jonze or Charlie Kaufman should be tackling. It reminds me of that bizarre subplot in Flubber where like the machine is in love with the inventor, and that alone is so fascinating, but it's not the focus of the movie. The focus is slapstick comedy and one-liners, and yeah, that's fine, but I really wanted this explored. And what I was really curious about is, does this romance technically work? If the whole film was dedicated to it, absolutely, but because this is kind of an action comedy with a little bit of romance thrown in, it is a little tricky to work in such a complicated romance like this. So while I can't say it failed, I do like the three characters involved. It does make me wonder what an idea like this fully explored and realized could be like. I guess what I'm saying is there's a real good idea for a fascinating love story in this, and I think someone should pick it up and maybe explore it more in another story. It shouldn't just be left as a simple rom-com. This idea should really be delved into more. But again, that's really not what Free Guy is. Free Guy is a cute little movie where if you play video games, you'll get some laughs, and even if you don't, you'll get some laughs. And yeah, there's some stuff that doesn't always add up or doesn't always make you laugh out loud, but there is just enough in it to be pretty entertaining. Oh, and as a side note, Fox, stop throwing in one F word in your PG-13 movies. Yes, it worked amazing in X-Men First Class, but now you're trying to do it with everything. It just isn't fresh anymore, and you're not risque for still doing it. Everyone's figured it out now, and it's just getting old. Bitch moan, bitch moan. This really is a fun movie I think you should check out. And while I definitely don't think it's a great comedy, it's definitely good enough to play through.